extraordinary, yeah? Let me explain a bit about the Awaken to Destiny conference. It turned into more of a healing conference than it was Awaken to Destiny conference because originally Bill Johnson was booked to speak at the conference alongside Randy Clark for 3 days. Then they discovered that they double booked Bill Johnson for Melbourne and Sydney. So what they did was they got Bill Johnson to come out a day early, which is why the conference started on Wednesday, and the rest of the conference was mostly Randy Clark and his director of ministry, Tom Jones, both very, very anointed men of God. Now, to tell you the extent of the healing that was going on in the meetings of the conference, when Randy Clark was ministering, this was a crowd of about 800 people, and typically per night, 80 people were being healed of very, very serious things. And Randy Clark's a man of obviously great faith, and so I want to share a personal testimony about what happened to me. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background. We're going to send this portion of this video, which is being done at the moment, and we're going to send it to Global Awakening, which is the name of Randy Clark's ministry, because we want him to hear the testimony of what came out of something that he did at the conference. To give you a bit of background, about 35 years ago, I had a motorcycle accident where my left ankle was broken into 5 pieces. My tibia and fibula were broken in 6 places. Over the years, I've had 11 operations trying to keep that leg going. A year ago, I was diagnosed, or more than a year ago, I was diagnosed with chronic osteoarthritis, and the severity of it was such that when they did the scans on it, the x-rays, and I think they did x-rays, not an ultrasound and x-rays, the surgeon could actually see pinholes in the bone. That's how bad the osteoarthritis was. He said to me, both of the joints in your ankle are completely worn out. Not only that, the ankle was starting to collapse out to this side. So I went and had surgery last June, not the June just gone, the June before. And what they did was they cut a section of bone out of my ankle. They cut off all these bone spurs. They lengthened my Achilles tendon. They did about 4 operations in one. And to stabilise everything when they'd finished, he inserted a titanium screw up through my heel into the ankle to hold everything together. Now, 2 nights ago at the Awaken to Destiny conference, Randy Clark asked everybody who had metal in their bodies to stand up for healing prayer. Now, after I came out of surgery last year and after the plaster came off, I went to see my surgeon 3 months later, and he was asking me how I was going, and I said, well, things were improving. The one thing that I couldn't do, see, the place where this titanium screw went up is not through the bottom of my heel, it's not through the back of my heel, it's up at an angle like that. The only time it bothered me was when I was lying in bed and I had my foot like that. So that the actual heel, the point where the titanium screw goes into the bone, it was so sensitive that I could not put any weight on it at all. I could not lie there like that. And my wife, Kerry, will verify that. When I went to see the doctor, my surgeon, I told him about this, and he said some people are very sensitive to the entry point where the titanium screw goes in, and if it's giving you trouble, we're probably going to eventually have to take it out. So anyway, 2 nights ago, Randy Clark asked people to stand up who have metal in their bodies. So I stand up, and I can't remember what happened next. I can't remember if somebody prayed or what happened, but then he said, if you can in any way verify that something's changed, I want you to check. So for most people, it's moving around like this and like this. And I thought, well, the only way I can check this is I took my shoe off and I started pushing in with my thumb into where that screw was. And at first I thought I had the wrong spot because there was no pain. No, nada, Zilch. Now, I want to tell you that I cannot prove to you that actually happened last, 2 nights before, because it's been a little while since I checked it. But what I can say is that I have no pain where I had pain before due to that titanium screw. Now, what's extraordinary, I'm sure there are other people that had kind of metal in their bodies that have got more extraordinary testimonies than that, but the extraordinary thing to me is what happened after that. Because, he was asking for testimonies, and he asked me how long I'd had the problem. I said, well, I had my accident 35 years ago, and a year ago I had surgery. He came forward and he got me to show him. If you got the DVD from the conference, you'll see it. I'm there on the stage and I'm pressing in and there's no pain. And so he gets me and I explained to him that I still had the problem with the ankle joints. I don't know what's going on there. So he got me to stand down the bottom of the platform and wait, because we were going to have some more prayer. While I'm standing down there, this guy comes over to me with his 14-year-old son. Now, his 14-year-old son has had an accident that was so severe that his left leg was almost completely torn off his body. And they had to put 2 pins going in that way and 2 pins going in that way just to hold him together. And the guy comes up to me and says, I can see that because of what's happened to you, you've got great faith at the moment. Will you pray for my son? So I pray for him. I put my hand on his hip, and immediately I've almost got to take my hand off his hip because I feel this fire and heat. And I'm going, are you feeling it there? And he's going, yeah, my hip is warming up. It's warming up. It's warming up. So God was doing something in him. And then, so they went away and sat down, and this other guy came running over to me because he saw that this guy got touched. This other guy comes running over to me, and he's wearing 2 sand shoes, and one of them, he's folded the back of the sand shoe down because he can't put his heel down because of pain. And he goes, will you pray for me? So I go, yeah, of course I will. So, I get down there and I'm praying. I can feel the heat, but he can't. And then he goes to me, I think it might be 10% better, and he looks a bit disappointed and he wanders off. Right? I thought that's the end of that. But we haven't. It gets better. So yesterday afternoon, the session finished at 5:30, and we were all going to have dinner at the Castle Hill Tavern, which is just across the road from the church, from Dayspring Church. And last time I was in Castle Hill Tavern, by the way, I went there to get drunk. About 1990, not drunk in the spirit, I mean drunk. So I was going back to Castle Hill Tavern, this time not to get drunk, just to get something to eat with our team. And this will blow you away. I'm standing there in the line, and there's this guy in front of me, and the Wallabies played the All Blacks last night. Well, this guy, he's an Aussie, but he's wearing an All Blacks kind of jumper. And I started, giving it to him over that. I said, mate, what are you talking about? Because I heard his accent, right? And so we get to chatting, and he goes, how's your ankle going? And I said, well, I told him the testimony of the heel, and he goes, well, you know what? I've got metal in my elbow. I mean, get this, right? Like, there's 800 people in the conference, right? I could have been standing in that line at any point. If that guy had not been wearing an All Blacks jumper, I wouldn't have even spoken to him. This is the sort of God moment that God's so good at putting together. So I said, well, bro, I told him about the other 2 people that I prayed for. I said, you want me to pray for you? So we're standing there in the food line at Castle Tavern. Kerry and I put our hands on his elbow and start praying for him, and he starts feeling the heat in his elbow. This is in the pub, right? Church in the pub. We've got church in the pub. We might start a new branch called Church in the Pub. So then we come back to the conference. They're doing the worship before the last session. And the guy I told you about who had to fold down the back of his sand shoe because he didn't think he got healed? Well, he came back to me and he said, I just wanted to let you know, to encourage you that in the last 24 hours, I'm now 90% healed. Okay.
What about the young boy?
Huh? Well, I don't know the testimony of the young boy. All I know is that when we went forward for prayer, again, Randy Clark recognised me as the guy who had the screw in the heel, and he said something about he had a testimony of healing for the young boy that I prayed for. So I don't know the extent of that healing, but I just want to say that there is an outpouring of the Holy Spirit in healing. There is a fresh wave of the Holy Spirit. It's rolling through Australia, and we need to surf it. Amen.